I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, a basketball podcast. Excuse me, the playoff basketball podcast. I'm Ben Dietrich. With me. Are you jumping the gun, buddy?
Yeah, I was trying to get my own shut off. You know what I mean?
No, give it a whirl. What do you got?
I'm Jordan Radaley.
You've been talking to Kobe too. Just get your shots off, man. No matter what happens,
Yeah, man. Like
King takes his crown.
Mamba knew 3 years ago. You know what I mean?
You've been mentored by Kobe, I see.
Another guy who's here today who clearly has the Mamba mentality, Andrew Quo.
What's up, guys? How you feeling? How's your playoff brain doing?
Pretty good. Maybe.
Any revelations?
It's okay. It's all right. It's moving.
Yeah, I mean it's slightly more heightened than my regular season brain.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
You're almost like Ben Simmons. You stepped up in the
Well,
playoffs.
the thing is that I don't have as many teams to think about or to ignore. You know how much brain space it takes up actively ignoring shit?
You're
It's
asking our
fucking
interns. I mean,
very hard to like filter out the noise sometimes of the regular season. So I'm glad we're just down to the brass tacks.
You seem hyper-focused.
Hyper.
is it the wonderful sounding rain on cascading down on the lab?
Yes, it's cascading sunroof rain.
There's a good chance that about 3 feet to your left, eventually, Jordan, rain and perhaps pieces of plaster will come dropping down if the rain continues. It's one of the little special perks that the lab has, a leaky roof.
At least I've got that to look forward to for the next, 2.5 hours that we'll be doing this thing?
For the next, 3 to 4 hours, of which we're talking about basketball, you are in danger of getting leaked on. And bits of plaster that are probably toxic.
Cool.
Talking about feeling like you're in prison. Anna Delvey found guilty today.
Playoff Quo.
Talking about it being in jail. You know about this, Jordan?
Yeah, I know about Anna. I didn't know that she was convicted.
Oh, and she's not convicted. She was found guilty today of stealing $200,000.
Isn't that convicted?
No.
No?
No.
Convicted.
So it goes convicted.
No, she was convicted.
She was
but
convicted.
she has not been sentenced.
She has not been sentenced.
See, I told you, man. Playoff brain. Fuck you.
Yeah, Quo come out here
Oh,
slopping
Jesus.
around.
Focus.
Regular season Quo is
Fuck us.
no
Okay.
match for postseason Radelli.
Have you guys ever hung out with her in the travels of your nightlife life?
Not by my knowledge. I assume that we've been in the same rooms, considering when the two articles came out about her and they referenced a lot of familiar faces in New York City nightlife, and she seemed to roll to those events. That we've all been to those places.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I haven't encountered her because she liked to hang around with people who had money. So, no, I have no idea. I've never been anywhere with her ever.
The unscammable Radelli.
Yeah, I'm like, bitch, can't do it if I ain't got none.
I think it's interesting how, yeah, it's. But I think like our fascination with scam artists is like kind of always at peak, right? Even though we don't want to admit it, especially with like the Varsity Blues. Can you hear that rain?
That rain is coming down.
Coming down.
I think it's going to be relaxing for our listeners.
Cool.
so-
Just everyone just pretend that you're in a really dumb, crass Graham Greene novel set in Vietnam in the 40s.
I mean, another option is we can just do sort of, relaxing ASMR style. Eric,
Are you trying to break out your goddamn bamboo flute again? I told you, man.
Chris
no more bamboo flute.
Middleton, DJ Wilson.
It was a bad shot.
So maybe there's a lot of people outside of New York that don't know who Anna Delvey is.
So she was a nightlife scenester. Her real name was Anna Sorkin, I believe, and she just kind of rolled around pretending to be an heiress
like a Russian heiress, right?
something.
I think it was German, but
German?
it may have also meandered around Eastern Europe.
And an egregious example of a crime was she offered a friend all expense paid luxury trip, and when came time to pay for it, she was like, "My credit card doesn't work. Can you pay for it?" And she forged like transactions of her paying her back, and never actually paid her back. Like, I believe it was like $60,000+, like 67. But like we encounter these people all the time in our lives, and they're like hilarious, especially in the news. But I mean, the fascination with the whole Varsity Blues thing, I think, is on par with this, with like people paying off test takers to get their kids in schools, USC. But like we're always fixated. Like I'm having trouble concentrating with this rain.
The
man.
rain is very
It's throwing me
intense.
off the game. This is like Shane Battier
on, Chloe.
hand in my face.
Get your shit together. Put your wet weather tires on and
Yeah.
just drive through it, bro.
I like this new Jordan. He comes in 2 hours late and he is ready to go.
How am I 2 hours late? You said 1 o'clock. It's 1 o'clock.
I'm gonna fang it.
All right, yeah, fang it. Come on, let's go.
But I'm interested because, like, I'm not that. It's more entertaining than outrageous. You know, like, I assume this happens all the time, but I have no way to prove it does. I just watch a ton of movies.
My thing about the Anna Delvey situation was that there was an article written about her that ran either in Vanity Fair or on the Vanity Fair website. I forget which one it was. And that was the one that was the recounting of her friend, who I believe worked at Vanity Fair, got stuck with a bill when they went to Morocco or Algeria. I forget what it was, but got stuck with like multiple thousands of dollars
Yeah, this
bill.
is the one that he's talking about.
But then the story that came out that really went viral was one in New York Magazine, which told the exact same story, but had a better, more professional writer and more research and things like that. But then that's the story that went huge that they're basing the movie off of, and that got sold. So it's very strange that this particularly New York story about a girl who was like a bullshit con artist who kind of fucked around and like hung out with like Purple magazine parties and at Soho Grand and like lived in hotels like the Mercer, I believe, and some other spots, that it required 2 articles in national publications and then became a phenomenon. Like, what's the obsession about that? Is it a New York media obsession?
I think it's like, and yeah, that's basically what I was trying to get out. But the rain
Like,
was
why would
confusing.
someone in Ohio give a fuck about Anna Delvey?
Because that's for the same reason that we would watch something like How to Make It America or Girls,
Or
and be
The
like,
Great
oh, this
Gatsby.
is kind of like a weird, like non-version of New York. So people who don't live here get to see it and imagine what it's like. But also, this is a nice takedown of like New York fucking idiots who like couldn't even figure their shit out because they were too busy like doing blow or like drinking, like having bottle service or something. I think people outside are fascinated by how basically by how easily common sense can be obscured in a place like New York, and in those sort of atmospheres and environments of hotels and bottle service and all this kind of shit where it's all smoke and mirrors to begin with.
And do you think that could happen now? Like, if nightlife existed like it
It
did,
happened like 2 years ago, so it's still now.
yeah, but okay, after knowing Anna Delvey, like this
For
just happens.
sure.
It's a cyclic. This is a cyclic thing, right? Like
Someone's doing it right now.
we've heard stories about this almost, like to your point, we've heard stories about this almost every few years. Why is she more interesting than anyone else?
I mean, remember I want to say he was from Singapore, but I could be wrong. But there was the Notorious Whale, who was an Asian guy who would go to Avenue and a few other places.
This is crazy.
Yeah, we're in the eye of the storm.
Yeah.
Shout to the original gun clappers.
Yeah.
Original.
But yeah, there was a guy who was basically shutting down the club circuit in New York, the biggest bottle service guy that existed. And he was a fraud too. It was scammed money. He was spending it, but he was a scammer as well.
And you recently saw him, right?
There was an article about him recently. I don't think I've seen him.
Oh, okay.
I think this fascination with the Anna Delvey one is that she kind of came out of nowhere, and also the lack of sophistication in her scam is crazy. Like, she kind of just bullshitted, and not in it. She didn't. She had like some documents, and she
wasn't even crafty.
She wasn't crafty. She wasn't good at it. She was always going to get busted, which I think is amazing. I think she maybe wanted to get busted, especially since she doesn't really seem to care about doing time, is super into the celebrity of being caught, and is sold her story to a movie company. What are they
Famously
called?
hired
Studio.
a stylist for her courtroom appearances. So her stylist would run to like Uniqlo and get her stuff off the rack and bring it to her, and she'd change really quickly.
But to your point before, like, could this happen again? And obviously the answer is yes.
Yeah.
But it does speak to this transaction that happens uniquely or maybe most aggressively in that world that we're describing, which is there's physical appearance, there's connections, there's wealth, there's sort of coolness. There's all these commodities that get traded. So someone who runs Purple Magazine is legitimately cool in terms of that world. He is cool because of who he knows, but he might not be rich. And Anna Delvey presents herself as an incredibly wealthy person, so then she becomes someone of interest to someone who otherwise wouldn't care at all.
Right, and I mean, this is a boring take, but there always has to be a willing kind of mark. And I think a lot of times people like Anna Delvey recognizes that mark, and they're like, oh, they're really easy to isolate from the pack or whatever, and be like, oh, I'm rich, you want to go on vacation with me? We can take photos, like, you don't have to pay for anything. And like, it's easier than you think, I think. Like,
But no one even accused her of being particularly charming or interesting, or, no offense to her, like incredibly attractive, or there was no sort of magnetism about her that let this scam work, other than the fact that she just said, I'm really, really rich.
yeah. And I've talked to a number of our friends that have run into her back in the day, and they're like, she seemed just totally believable and whatever. Like, no one paid any mind to it. They're like, oh, I'm a rich heiress. Like, cool.
Because you meet those people.
Yeah, it's like, cool. You're at home then in this.
And the funny thing is
Place.
with New York, you don't even need to actually like represent yourself as rich to convince someone that you are. Like, I could be like, oh yeah, I'm fucking rich. And like, I look like this because I don't give a fuck. And they're like, all right, cool.
Because most people we know who are wealthy downplay their wealth. They don't. It's a secret. You're like, oh, you know that guy who is just like such a dirtbag, like sleeping under people's stairs? Oh, his family is fucking loaded. You're like, really?
Which
makes sense. Okay, now I see it.
which is never really the case, but right, it's just like, it's that retail cliche, right? It's like, if someone walks in and they look like they don't belong there, they probably can buy the whole place out. It's like, you never know, right? If you're working the floor at a high-end spot and someone doesn't look like they belong there, just like be very nice to them, because they dress that way and they're there maybe for a reason.
Well, yeah, it's like when I got lost at Barney's and they were following me around for a while, but then I think they just wanted to sell me stuff.
With like champagne and be like, can we help you?
I had like basketball shorts and
That's that famous
and
Australian
and a
Air-
North Face
Air.
on in the middle of winter. I'd locked myself out of my house. I had to go and get keys off my girlfriend. I didn't know where I was. They thought I was either crazy or extremely rich.
But
Is this a long con? Are you an heir?
Wouldn't that be good? I once convinced somebody that they're like, I was at a party and they were like, what do you do? And I didn't want to tell them because I just didn't want to get into it because podcasting's boring, you know. And and then
ooh, you must be wealthy. You're a podcaster.
No, I was like, I said I don't do anything. They're like, why? What do you mean? I was like, oh, my parents run all the private correctional institutions in Australia, and so I just use that money. And they're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And I was just like the lazy, rich prison guy for the rest of the night, which was better than what I was.
But also, all those people do filter their way into New York, and you do encounter them. So someone representing themselves as that is fully
Totally.
believable.
Totally.
And also, to Quo's point, the classic scam was called like the Spanish prisoner.
Right.
And that's the idea that the Nigerian email scams, or all those ones, follow that. Like, I'm in correspondence with a really wealthy person. I need your help, and then you will be the beneficiary of this.
Right.
And in this way, it's just her saying, I am the rich person. It's me. I'm here. You can benefit from this. And you're like, well, sure, at some point in my life, I might need to know a multi-billionaire. Yeah, you can come to this party with me and have drinks, because what are the criteria anyway?
Right. And all she has to do is send you like a couple texts being like, last night was really fun. What are you doing? And then you're just like, oh, I have a new friend who's an heiress. You know, like, it's easy.
Yeah. All right. Glad we settled that.
I thought it was an interesting story today.
Yeah, at
given
least,
our
at least we
night
found
life
out
past.
Jordan's background as a penal colony scion,
Yeah.
the Australian prisoner.
All right, Ben. You had some highbrow shit you wanted to talk about.
I don't know if it's as highbrow as, the purple Halloween party at the Standard. But there was an article that I was reading the other day, and I don't remember the exact specifics of it, but it discussed architecture. I was thinking about turning it into a basketball discussion, not what they were really talking about.
Okay.
But the idea was that polio was such a big deal in the first half of the century.
Ben had polio.
The polio lives? Same damn polio sweater.
Maybe that's what the bear is for, because that's how polio was passed around. It's like a plush toy bear that some polio kid gave to another kid after he died.
It's pretty grim.
Hey.
But anyway, the idea here was that architecture in the first half of the century was informed by this obsession with polio and bones and x-rays. That was their theory. I was like, how does this apply to basketball?
Wait, go on with that though. Explain that one more.
They were saying that the
Step.
way that buildings were designed with sort of a visible skeleton to building, to the architecture. Maybe this is just a theory. I don't even know enough about architecture to argue.
Like an engineering point of view,
From
like
engineering,
spheres
from
and
visual,
structure.
yeah, there's like, it was based
Foundations.
on like a skeleton and the way that it went from seeing the inner workings of how a building was designed. Again, someone who really knows architecture might say that's horseshit, but that was the theory that they were positing. So I was thinking about basketball. And if you look at the way we view the court, it's distinctly human. The point guard is the top, your head. The two wings, which are literally appendages that come out from your sides. And then the foundation, like the strength, the legs are your two big guys. So what I was thinking of,
So you're talking like a Voltron kind of scenario here.
I'm saying if you look at a basketball court and how we set it up, like 1, 2, 2, it's a very humanoid figure.
Like the Da Vinci.
Yes.
Yes.
It's right. So I guess my question that I'm posing to you, philosophers of the game, is that so baked in that we're forgetting that there might be other ways of approaching basketball? Or are we starting to get to that in the way that we're like, okay, now it's 5 out, 1 in, small ball? Like, are we escaping the tyranny of like the human version of basketball?
Oh, I'm really glad that you handed me the reins to that one first, Andrew. You son of a bitch. Ah! Dropping hot coffee
I
everywhere.
was great. You just pointed at him like, Jordan.
Or I could go.
Maybe you should go because I'm still trying to process.
Did I explain that reason?
No, I think you did.
So I think like it's true. I think with things that we create, like architecture, and I immediately thought of like the clay huts and like I don't know. But anyway, Western architecture maybe. Yeah, I mean we are a reflection of what we see, and that's the easiest thing to evaluate, right? It's like, well, I don't have wings. How come that thing can fly and I can't? And like you know, Da Vinci kind of figures that out. But with basketball, it's like, sure, but then it makes sense on a architectural. That's the wrong word. Then it makes sense as like a spatial thing more than a reflection of like maybe like how we feel as humans or hubris or like the way we think like maybe all the planets orbit the Earth. You know, like. And I don't think the benefit of having, like, I don't think basketball was created with the idea of value in mind. It was created with the idea of, like, height, right? It was a game about gravity and how far were you away from something you couldn't touch. And, like, human beings have evolved to, like, change that, the parameters of that problem. But as it exists as a problem, I don't think we have made a mistake here because I do believe you need speed in the middle of the court. I do believe you need length on the sides of the court, and I do believe you need tallness at the end of the court.
I guess what I'm thinking is when you eliminate positions, and you say everyone's 6'7", everyone can shoot, everyone can handle the ball a bit, everyone can block some shots and rebound and protect the rim enough. Is that more idealized? Is that better, ultimately, than saying, okay, we gotta have like short guys, tall guys, this? I guess that's what I'm
I
trying
know
to...
what you're getting at, right? Because you're getting at a narrative. You're asking if we've created basketball in the image of a story.
And the story being like the
right.
way we view a human body. Like, our team will represent us. The point guard is the brain, and then wings are doing things, and they
It's
can
the Lord
kind
of the Rings, the dwarf, the wizard, the archer. All these things. It's like, well, in order to create the perfect team, we need the archer, we need the dwarf, we need the hobbit, we need the wizard, and we need the giant. Like, that's how we beat everyone else, because we have all these narratives in place. But I think recently we found that like we can switch that narrative, and I'm so glad we get to talk about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But they operate on the level more of like Greek mythology, right? Like there's character weaknesses as opposed to like physical limitations, which is more interesting than being like we need a short, small guy at the point, which is how the narrative of a story like The Hobbit works, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's this natural human inclination to say we all serve different roles and each one does their best and together we're stronger. And I feel like that's the compartmentalization of humankind. It's not about a bunch of Renaissance men doing different things. It's you're the hunter, you're the chief, you're the soldier, you're the homemaker, you're the one who tends the crops. And it's this idea that everyone serves their best role.
And there's a wokeness about that we're kind of fixing now, because we see kind of exceptions to all of these compartments that we put everybody in. But also, like, it kind of elasticizes back to that original narrative in that, like, oh, height is a skill. And if you're Jokic or if you're Giannis and you are as fast as a point guard, you are the ultimate. Like, we don't have to put you into a compartment we've already created. You're a new compartment.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, to use your Lord of the Rings analogy, if I could trade a hobbit for another wizard, I'm getting another wizard. I want 5 wizards.
100%.
Give me 5 fucking wizards. I don't care if they're old. I don't care if they're washed. 5 washed wizards over a couple of young hobbits any day of the week.
But exactly, right? No, I'm thinking this is correct because we've based our understanding of basketball on the gym class.
Well, teamwork.
But it's the gym class, right? Okay, you're big, you go down there. You're small, you're going to dribble the ball up. You're in between, you play here.
Well, you're almost talking about representation. If it's a gym class, right? Being like, well, we have to have everyone involved. The small guy, myself, I can't really play against guys that look like you in high school, but I can play against guys that look like me. So we create a situation where, like, the point
Exactly,
guard-
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Basketball being an off-season, but being invented as an off-season training for football, I imagine that people's physicalities were somewhat similar in football, or more so than just your regular, like, post-invention gym class. And so, but that's probably when they first started realizing the skills and advantages of, like, someone being told, oh,
Bill Russell.
the peach. I'm talking like early days, like when it was not a sport.
When there's
they
an
were
actual like woven basket.
yeah, when the basket was 14 feet in the air, it's going to be better to have the tall guy because it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For sure.
And I'm sure that is when, like, those things, when they were working out the rules of basketball, when those positional strengths became attributed to physicality in different ways. And of course, that is what then the knock-on effect goes through to the gym class.
So it goes from gym classes to the way we build a team. So everyone's like, okay, you're big. You will become a big guy. You are this. And then now, of course, you get all these stories of an Anthony Davis or a Zion Williamson who was a shorter player and developed guard attributes and then had a growth spurt. And suddenly they're a big guy. And I'm like, why aren't all big guys trained in small man endeavors and skill sets when they're younger? And this kind of makes me think of machine learning where they take these like renderings and it's like, you know, but again, I'm not a computer science guy here, but they basically instruct a computer program to learn to walk and to run. And there's all these, they have blocks. And they don't always get to like two-legged bipedal humanoid running. Sometimes they're these weird like self-slingshotting and using like a wheel and one other arm. So it's more like if you gave one of those programs a bunch of like traits, people of different heights and skill sets and all those things, would they come up with ultimately the basketball that we have today, or would it look insanely different? They're like, your big guys go as far away from the basketball as possible, or the rim as possible, and they can shoot over everyone. The little guys scamper in a circle for the rebounds because they're faster.
Well, I like your analogy. Your analogy with the kind of computer objective generation of like the optimal thing, because it makes me think of like monster creature design in movies, and like even these movies for children that we're seeing. It's just like, okay, you can implode the earth with a thought, but it comes down to hand-to-hand combat, because like as humans we can't really like tell a story without like being reduced to something we understand. And if you ask like let's say like, let's get really stony, and someone like an alien who didn't know what humans look like was tasked to create the game of basketball, it'd be like, it would look nothing like what you guys think, because
That's all I'm kind of trying to get at.
You guys have created this in your own image.
Yes. So I'm wondering if you could escape the sort of tyranny of humandom and say, I'm going to come up with a new way to play basketball and demolish everything you're doing, but it requires this.
Yeah.
Like, could you completely reinvent basketball in a way that looks totally foreign, or are you still
Are
handcuffed
you talking
by
about
like, the rules?
reinventing it within the structure of the current set of rules?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Which obviously make it more difficult.
And it's tough because we clown Ronadive and the owner of the Kings and Malcolm Gladwell a lot, because they have these similar thoughts where it's just like, oh, I believe teams should be playing full court press all the time. And everyone's like, that's ridiculous. Like, oh, I believe teams should cherry pick. One guy should just stay on offense, and then 4 defenders could handle 5 because you just wait for someone to miss a shot. Probably ridiculous, but these are the thoughts that like a computer would generate 1,000,000 times over.
What about if you have 4 players all holding hands around the ball handler on their own team, doing like a ring-a-ring-a Rosie, so that the outside team would have to foul in order to get even closer to the ball, and you just slowly move the ball up
so
the
the
court.
defenders couldn't put their hands up?
Did Ranadive suggest that? I feel like that might have been one of his.
If you had your 4 biggest players surrounding your point guard or whoever the person is who's dribbling the ball, they can't get to that person without fouling. And you just walk the ball up the court, and that person shoots, and they can't get close enough because you're creating the perimeter. I just fucking cracked the code, son.
Now, that's what I mean. If someone can escape the limitations of the human, they can reinvent in basketball.
I mean, tell me that wouldn't work, and tell me why.
Moving pick.
How's
you
it a
just,
moving
you just
pick?
stand in the way, and if they barrel you over, it's an offensive foul.
Moving pick, but you're circling.
It crumbles so quickly.
I guess you'd have to do it as almost like a pick and roll, but with 4 guys. So then they're allowed to like run unobstructed towards the basket, and you could kind of be within. But is that the build a fucking wall idea that your man Stan Van Gundy was attempting, just defensively?
I love it. Yeah, I don't think that would work, but I'm awesome. I would love to see it.
That's the thing. You don't think it will work because you're subscribing to the aforementioned limitations.
Maybe that's true.
Well, fortunately, there's one guy out there who moves beyond the limitations of being a paunchy white giant from Eastern Europe, because he's a basketball genius.
Yes, who also moves below the expectations of somebody like that.
I think we're talking about Nikola Jokic, the best point guard in the league. Number 1 point guard, Nikola Jokic.
Honestly, he might be the best point guard in the NBA right now.
Tell me who's better. Best point guard.
Best point guard.
I think he is physically optimal. He may not look. I mean, he's tall and can handle. So, like, if you were like,
then he can shoot.
If you were the second best point guard in the league, T.J. McConnell, and you were D'ing him up at half court, you'd be like, I can't guard this guy. He's got my skills, and he's tall and big, right?
He's Magic Johnson with a better jumper.
Yeah, always a power forward.
Yeah, if Magic Johnson could have played center. Wait, is Jokic a power forward?
No,
I thought he was a point guard.
he's a point guard.
I'm trapped up in my own web of lies.
This whole simulation thing and the rain has thrown us off.
Yes. I would also say, though, that
Really? I think I'm thriving in this wet weather.
Oh yeah, it sounds like you're thriving.
yeah, you're very aquatic.
Yeah.
Maybe amphibious.
I would say amphibious. I'm probably like
Does that mean he can shoot with his right and left?
I would say I'm more of a water-loving marsupial. How's that?
Are there any? Maybe an otter?
Platypus.
An otter?
Platypus.
Klay Thompson fixed his shot, jumping in the water. Joel Embiid hates the water. Random shit we learned this week.
I want to talk more about Jokic, but I do want to have a quick segue here for Jordan. There's that huge article in the Times about how they're poisoning millions of cats in Australia with contaminated sausages.
Yeah.
of
Literally
of-
millions.
Of kangaroo meat.
Yeah, I think they're aiming to cut down like 2 million over the next 2 or 3 years.
Did that article fill you with...
pride? Yes.
No, I was going to ask, did it fill you with remorse or pride? So I guess...
Definitely not remorse. Having spent numerous years in the country areas of Australia, pests and foreign entities that have been introduced like completely ravage the flora and fauna of Australia, which is extremely unique, once plentiful, and in serious danger. If it's not cane toads, it's like feral cats are fucking everywhere. Cane toads are everywhere. They're ravaging crops. But these things are like killing species. And
Are feral cats, in your own experience, are they like just everywhere?
they're everywhere.
Well, to your point, back in the Hotmail days, I was emailing a friend who had gone to visit her family in Australia, and she didn't reply back, and she came back. She was like, I just saw your email. Sorry, the dingoes knocked out our generator, and we didn't have power for a week. She's like, it happens all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
I mean, but dingoes are native Australian dogs, so
But also a problem, right? Like,
I mean, they ate a baby once. Like,
allegedly.
infamously.
Allegedly.
I mean, in the same campground where that baby was taken, I was taking a shower as a child in an outdoor amenities block, and a dingo came all the way into my shower with me. I was terrified. I was
How
like,
big are dingoes?
I don't know, same size as a German Shepherd. It wasn't
Pretty
massive.
big. That's pretty big.
Speaking of, it's not a little dog. It's definitely something that you.
Do they roll together, or are they like solo dudes?
I mean, I think they roll together. He was alone. They're just looking for food,
Yeah,
like,
of
and they
course.
come
Yeah.
scavenging around campsites.
Yeah.
But anyway, these fucking cats, yeah, they kill so much shit. But also,
Kill those poetry slams.
But I mean, I think there's something like 100,000 kangaroos culled each year as well. I mean, and that's the thing. They're not killing them; they're culling them,
Is
which
this
is different. They're cutting back the population.
Was this an article meant to trigger Americans who like kind of love cats?
I definitely think the author,
Ben's
That-
putting on his Kangol. Oh, Jordan's wearing a Kangol now. All right. All right, cat.
Tell us more about the cats.
All right, cat, start
by the way,
killing it.
Kangol's, the reason they have the kangaroo logo has nothing to do with the name, except that people could never pronounce Kangol. They kept saying kangaroo, so they just put it on the fucking.
I didn't know that.
I love it.
I also don't know where the hat came from because it
Well,
was
let
not
me
mine.
take it off then, because that might be gross.
I think it might be Dave Jacoby's.
Oh, awful.
But from like before he moved to LA
Yeah,
the first
explain.
time.
You just
Like,
threw your friend under the bus. Now you have to.
Like, it's-
I'm
that
pretty,
was-
sure
that
it's,
was-
I'm pretty sure it's a Jacoby Kangol that's been
That's
in that
not
box
even an
for like
official
7 years.
Kangol. That's just
No.
like a shape of a Kangol.
It's like what he was dressed as when he was doing Jackie Brown for Halloween. So yeah, I'm all for killing the cats. I mean, it seems necessary at this point, and when there's enough,
You know, you're talking to a guy who had an Instagram account that was about the adorability of cats.
Yeah,
that
have you ever
ranged
seen
in
a
the
fucking feral
quarter
cat, dude?
quarter million.
Have you ever seen a feral cat?
I adopted a feral cat, but
But we're not talking like city feral. We're talking about like these.
Would
things
you
are
let
fucking-
Jordan near that feral cat after hearing what he just said?
these things
I'm
are
not mad at
big.
Jordan's take. I mean, it's like I love these animals so much, and it doesn't mean that they're not pests, right? Like, I also love cows, and for years I ate burgers. Like, I don't care that people eat burgers, but cows are rad. Like, I don't know. You can. I think I was a hit. I thought it was a hit job towards Australians.
Oh, absolutely. But it was also, I'm pretty sure the author was like, oh, god damn, you know what's going to get me a lot of attention and a lot of reading, and someone's going to read this like 15,000 word mega piece is the knee-jerk reaction of saying Australia is killing cats with sausages. The with sausages part was my favorite.
Fantastic.
Feel my pain. Feel my pain, man. As a Chinese person, cats are well loved in China. China's a big place, and somewhere they do things that don't subscribe to my norms. And I would be appalled as everyone else, but it's not all Chinese people. Thank you for giving me that time.
One last
Perfect
Australian thing here before we get back to Jokic, if we even do. A cassowary killed someone in Florida. Cassowaries, as far as I understand, are a native of Australia, New Zealand.
What is it?
It's a large earthbound bird with super sharp talons.
Oh my god, that thing was really intense
And
looking.
it killed like
Its
a
owner.
70-year-old man, who was the owner. It was an older guy, but I think it clawed him and he just fell to the ground, and then it sort of like ripped him to shreds.
Yeah, it can like disembowel you in a second with like one stroke.
What's up with Australia and like the disemboweling angle? Like kangaroos, cassowaries, they're really going for the bowels.
It's a good way to end someone's vibe.
Kill the vibes
Dude, you really killed my vibe.
with that disemboweling.
Dude.
I don't know like what the obsession with the bowels is, but most
Is it a down under thing?
no, I mean Australia famously has some of the deadliest creatures on earth.
The
Deadliest.
lower midsection.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so these fucking cats
But
are
also
trying to
the
kill
nicest-
the ones that aren't deadly.
Shout out to koalas and platypi.
What platypus?
What's a plural of
Platypus.
platypus? I thought it was going to be platypi.
Platypus. You're shouting out koalas? They're vicious as well. They're vicious drug addicts. Wait, you don't fucking know this?
I do know about their drug
Yeah.
stuff.
And they shit themselves. Like, koalas are the worst.
They're
The on-
viciously high.
Well, they're also like very aggressive creatures, and the only reason that they're not more aggressive is because eucalyptus gets them stoned, and it's basically heroin. They're just like doped out, and that's why they call them drop bears, because they get so fucked up they fall out of the trees.
Where are fruit bats from?
This pod has taken a turn.
I mean,
Because remember the Animaniacs where the fruit bats were like reggae guys and they got drunk off of rotten fruit? And as a kid watching that, I was like, this doesn't seem right.
I always see those YouTubes in my YouTube watching about like
love
the little monkeys who live
I
by
love those
by
videos.
seaside resorts and just get hammered all day, stealing people's pina coladas and then
yeah,
passing
yeah,
out on
yeah.
the beach. Those monkeys are killing it.
Crushing it. Did you see?
Best
guys,
lives.
Did you guys see the monkey scrolling through Instagram yesterday?
yes.
Incredible.
What was he liking things?
He was navigating like a normal person.
It was like opening things up and closing them and watching
Swiping
videos, swiping through.
Sending DMs.
Hateful DMs about Damian Lillard shots.
All right, does anyone have anything else to say about Jokic? Because we're really winding back around. I just want to cross it off the list
Well,
if we've got any more Jokic content.
I think your premise is misconstrued. I think Jokic is the perfect kind of body type for what he wants to do. It's just a funny one.
Jokic is putting up by like metrics, which everyone loves to use with Jokic because he's the darling as a guy who shoots, who also rebounds, who also
Seems
passes.
like a nice guy, man.
He crushes it in terms of statistics. He's putting up like by BPM, which a stat, whether you love it or not, it's
Good
a
players have
thumbnail.
good
It's a
BPMs.
thumbnail. Yeah, it's a thumbnail of performance. In this series, in which his team is locked 3-3 with the Spurs, he's putting up numbers rivaled thus far only by LeBron, Michael Jordan, Kareem, and then like Wade in one series in the history of the NBA. But the Nuggets might still not make it out of the first round. And there's something about Denver and Jokic and this statistical excellence that rubs a lot of basketball fans the wrong way. People are excited about the Spurs exposing this number 2 seed Nuggets team. Why? Why are people opposed to the Nuggets?
I think people being opposed to the Nuggets is pretty recent. Like, throughout the season, I thought people loved the goddamn Nuggets. And everyone loves an upset, especially since nobody hates Greg Popovich. Like, people have always hated the Spurs, but this is a different team. No one hates Greg Popovich. So for him to go out there and just use his like basketball intellect to take down a number 2 seed is attractive to viewers as an underdog thing. Also, there is no one on Denver that anybody gives a shit about. Jokic is amazing, but he's like a dumpy white dude with not that many highlight plays unless you're into really, really intelligent passing and footwork. And then you got Gary Harris, who was fine. Paul Millsap, who no one has ever worn a Paul Millsap jersey, I think, in the history of Paul. Did they even make them?
They never made them, actually.
No, I didn't think they made them.
Yeah. You can't buy one. They're incredibly rare. The only ones you'll ever see, he actually wore in games.
He wore in games. Yeah, there's not that much eye test that is appealing about the Denver Nuggets. So I think people are just arguing with the numbers, so they don't want to say that they're a boring team to watch.
There's something interesting, though, because it's kind of when you hear those stories about a guy who's getting deported, and it's like, I voted for Trump, too. I feel like there's something with the basketball fans where no one wants to see the Spurs in the second round, but people are like rooting against their own self-interest. Like, you're going to have to watch DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge in the second round? Like, you want to be subjected to that? And they're like, well, no, but I want the Nuggets to lose.
But LaMarcus against his old team.
But no one wants to see these guys. They're so deeply unentertaining. And people are like, yeah, but I want those nerds to really eat it with the Nuggets loss.
Listen, they might be long twos, but they make them a lot, so they're not bad shots. I mean, but like the Nuggets are flawed because as entertainment, because Jokic is super fun. But of course, like people get frustrated because he doesn't look like Michael Jordan or David Robinson or like LeBron James. He's like a dopey looking white guy, and the rest of the team looks kind of the same in the way they play. I joked on Twitter like it's a bunch of Andre Millers, but they're all so different, but like they look optically the same. So it's hard to tell the difference between Gary Harris and another Gary
Jamal
Harris
Murray.
and another Gary Harris. You
And
know,
then like the 2 or 3 Will Bartons that come out there.
yeah, Will Barton 5. More
Monty,
Barton.
Monty Morris 7.
But it's just a deep team made up of great, effective players that can mix and match based off.
I know what you mean, though. They're all kind of the same height. They all do similar things. Like, come on, give Isaiah Thomas out there to like give us something visually interesting.
Well, this is back to your original point about like making entertaining things based off of our own image, because the Nuggets are just like, this is our most effective lineup with the pieces we had available to us.
Their brain is in their foot, which
Right.
is confusing to people.
And if we put Isaiah Thomas out in there, people will be like, yes, this makes more sense as a basketball team. You surround Jokic with shooters like Isaiah. But no, this is their best chance at winning, which isn't a great chance.
It's also, I mean, like I said, Jokic is amazing. But the eye test is weird with him because we recognize him as having like superior footwork and touch.
He's not that
But
slow.
He's not that slow, but he's lumbering and just the way
Not
his
slow, but it's more of a lumber. It's visually lumbering. No, it's true. Lumbering and speed are different.
Yeah. It's his release takes a longer.
and his entire physicality, the way his body moves. Beautiful footwork. Sometimes it looks like he's stumbling or that he's tripping. And I think that's sort of hard for people to realize is that what is nice footwork into a very like well thought out baby hook looks like he tripped and heaved it up a lot of the times, which is that's just not the case because no one has that much luck.
People also roast him because his defense is not that great, and it also doesn't visually look that great. He's not a formidable center in the way of a Tyson Chandler, this guy who's the pillar of your defense, who swats shots, catches lobs, screams, gets pumped up, the last line of defense in that way
He
that
just doesn't crouch down enough.
There's
no crouch bias.
No crouch
I need
bias.
Jokic just like slapping the floor.
But what's nuts is we're watching a guy who might be the best offensive center in the history of the NBA. And I know people will say, that's insane. There's Shaquille O'Neal. There's Wilt Chamberlain. There's Kareem.
David Robinson.
There's the Dream.
Hakeem.
Yeah, they're all good. Jokic is offensively 100% in that category. 100% because He is by far the best passer out of that group. He is by far the best shooter out of that group. His rebounding, pretty similar. His scoring per 36 minutes, pretty similar. He just plays a lot less minutes. Shaq played like 38 minutes a game. Jokic plays like 29. If you just add on 25% more on his numbers, they're Shaq-ish.
And
like
then-
last night, 43 points, 12 rebounds, 9 assists. That's a fucking joke.
Ayo. But
Oh God.
ish. But I have to talk about the noise with that, which is like after 1996 when the NBA started, because everything before that doesn't matter. It was a different game then, and centers weren't asked to pass or weren't kind of challenged to create as much as they are now. So Jokic clearly is in that tier, but benefits greatly for this new kind of basketball.
No question about it. It's also interesting, though, that people are so quick to diminish the guy that we're seeing, the guy who is an MVP candidate, who's putting up 43, 12, and 9. Like, nah, he's not that good. You know who is good? Some guy from 35 years ago. Like, you weren't even alive. Like, you can't even remember. No, Kareem. Fucking says who?
Yeah.
You never watched Kareem play. You've seen 2 highlights of a skyhook on YouTube.
Well, then that's the thing with domination. People are like, well, this dude dominated the game. It's because if they look like they dominated the game, that's the thing. He just doesn't look like he's
Dribble bias.
He's not taking over. Except that he just gave you 8 consecutive points, and all the rest of the team's points in the quarter were assisted.
But then when you look like Shaq, the argument against that is always like, well, he's just bigger and taller, so what he's doing is unfair.
And people said the same thing about Shaq until he became mythological, and now everyone's like, yeah, but he's no Shaq. When Shaq was there, yeah, but he can't shoot.
Yeah,
just follow him.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, it was like all the same arguments are just repurposed for a new generation. My theory overall when it comes to basketball is the guys doing it right now are the best who ever did it. So Jokic is probably the best offensive center ever. That doesn't mean that if you put him back there 20 years ago, actually, yeah, if you put him back 20 years ago, he'd fucking dominate the league. Are
He
you
would
kidding me?
dominate.
But what I mean is more, if you took a guy, Kareem, and put him now with now the training and the coordination and the skill sets, yes, he'd be a different player and maybe would be still the best player of all time. The guards right now are the best. The forwards are the best. The big men are the best. And in
Coaches
10
are the best.
Coaches are the best. And in 10 years, those guys will be the best.
Yes.
That's how everything works. Everything's a cell phone.
I know, like I always say I want to take care of myself and like drink less, eat better, exercise more, because I just want to see as much basketball as I can. Being like, well, what about next year? Does it get better? You know, it's just like Jokic sucks now. You know, like I just want to see all this like keep on going.
Ball is a reason for
That's
life.
something to think.
Yeah.
Like, what about like? It's an 80-year-old dude now or something, or a woman, like whatever. Just an 80-year-old person who's super into basketball. Like, think about how much basketball they've seen since they were a kid.
And they're like, I might die before Zion gets drafted by the Knicks. Like, how can I make it for another 6 months?
Well, there's that melancholy with like Lebitard and Bill Simmons where they have their dads on a lot, and their dads have watched so much hoops. And I go to games with an 80-year-old French guy who's watched like Walt Frazier win in MSG. He was in the building. And like to hear the amount of knowledge they have with the game is like shocking, and it's like just get my popcorn and just listen to them talk about like every iteration of this Knicks team, or in Bill Simmons' dad case like the Celtics, or in Lebitard's case like his dad coming from Cuba, and then all this Miami sports kind of starting when the Heat started. It's like it's insane, and the amount of information it's hard to catch up with. It's like the Matrix trying to catch all this stuff, but then it's just like all I can be is just like he's like Donovan Mitchell is the best player in the NBA. I was like, well, actually, sir, I disagree.
It's not Donovan Mitchell this week. It's Damian Lillard.
Yeah,
And to that point, all those same kind of people. The best shot I've ever seen, Damian Lillard. That was the universal acclaim, the greatest shot in the history of the NBA. Damian Lillard, because no one's ever done that. He pulled up from 37 feet out with the game on the line, made it a step back just to add a little degree of difficulty, switched a game winner with a defensive player of the year candidate lunging at him. And the first initial outcry was, holy shit, I can't believe that happened.
it was a true joyous moment.
This game.
This game, it was like the joy across like all the platforms on my phone was amazing. It was incredible. It was like New Year's Eve.
And then what happened, Quo?
And then Paul George, after the game, says, out of context, a quote gets pulled off, being like, it was a bad shot. It went in. All respect to Dame, but it will forever be known as him making it, but it will always be a bad shot no matter what.
Right. He said the story that no one will give here was that he took a bad shot.
Yes. From 37 feet away, game-winning shot in a tie game scenario with time on the clock. He isolated himself and shot a 37-footer, just to give background.
Okay.
So I unfortunately indulged in enough of these arguments on the internet about whether it was a good shot or not, and I'm happy to rephrase them here, but I want a fresh take. So, Jordan, in your mind...
Great shot. Amazing shot. Like, fuck yeah, what a great shot. And the first thing that makes it a great shot is that Paul George didn't think he was going to take it, which makes it a great shot because it's unexpected. And there was really nothing to lose and everything to gain. I think for somebody like that who has been torching them, who has belief in his ability that he's going to make that shot, you know what I mean? I don't think it wasn't a heave. He waited and he waited and he waited until I feel like he kind of forced himself into that shot. Like he had no choice except to shoot it at that point. He didn't want to drive because the defense is going to collapse. Paul George is a smart enough defender that he's probably not going to get fouled, or if he does get fouled, he's probably not going to get the call with like 3 seconds left.
His team isolated. His team spread out and stopped moving.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a great shot. It's a shot that he can make. Paul George wasn't in position, despite the lack of shot clock that was left, shot clock available. And he underestimated him. He didn't think that someone's going to pull for a series-winning three from that far out of like regular person range.
Jordan says it's a great shot. Quo, what do you say?
Bad shot. But still the most fun. We're glad he took it. Like, yes. Like, this is what we want from everything. This is why we watch a game, this game.
But why do you say it's a bad shot? Because there's two arguments, right? There's well, we know it was a great shot.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not trying to be a Scrooge here.
We're talking bad shot as in like the shot
Intent.
you should be taking.
Exactly. No,
Intent.
and you described it in that way. I'm just clarifying for people.
Yeah.
No one's like, didn't think it was that good of a shot. Like, we know it was fucking crazy.
I can't believe it went in. What a fucking loser.
Right. We are all in agreement that it is a great shot. It's more like, was it a smart shot? Was it a dumb shot? Was it a hard shot? Was it a good shot in the basketball
Yes, I think so. I do think it was a smart shot.
I think Paul George was correct, and only because it was a tie game, and you just need to score. You don't need a three. So I think the better shot would have been him manufacturing a higher percentage through a pass just to get 2 points, 1 point, get fouled, anything. To wait on that was we know he hit. I think at the time it was like 8 for 14 historically from that range. But it's been corrected since by 538 and all that. Historically, he's on par with Steph Curry as being good at that shot. That doesn't give you enough reason to call that not a bad shot.
So I kind of agree with both of you guys in that this is like a sacred versus the profane issue, where if you're playing ball and you just feel the shot, you're like, I know this in my soul, this ball is going in. I'm Dame Lillard. The game is on the line. Like, I'm about to make you eat this 37-footer.
What did Marley say? It was like a Mamba quote with Bob Marley. Not Bob Marley. Oh, my God. Go on.
God, no, not Bob Marley. Not Bob Marley. Please, anything but Bob fucking Marley.
Dan Marley. I think he was in like some final scenario, and he was like, when I'm hot, you know?
But see, I think that is the best explanation of it being a good shot, and that's kind of what Jordan was saying. Because there's times when you're playing ball, and like, you're like, I know. And you're wrong all the time, but you can excuse that shot mentally because you're saying, in my mind, I'm thinking this 37-footer is going down, and like there's nothing you can do about it.
Still doesn't make it a good shot.
I'm not saying it does. I'm saying I think the best rationalization of that is Dame saying, I just feel it right now.
I'm going to say I agree in a sense with what Paul. I'm not mad at Paul George saying it's a bad shot, like because why would he? But that's exactly why it was a smart shot. You're up 3-1. It's a tied game. You don't have that much to lose, and the defense is expecting you to not do what you really want to do.
Except he isolated, and we all saw it coming. And I would say Paul George, everyone's knocking him for his defense. You don't want to foul in that case. All you want to do is not touch him. And he had a hand up.
I mean,
also-
if he doesn't do that little step back side step thing, Paul George is getting fingertips on that ball.
But
Like,
no, I think Dame Lillard can
was
get
there.
that shot closer. He could hit a step. He can create a step back look anywhere on the court.
I guess to me it comes down to there are times on the court when you feel like you're in the zone, as you said. Dan, also known as Bob Marley, described Thunder Dan Marley, Thunder Bob.
This thunder rips.
But like as someone who generally only shoots on the court, like I don't really at this point in my life I don't dribble a lot. You become more attuned to your jumper, and there's most of the time when you're shooting it, it feels like. And
Is he comparing Dame Lillard to
I
himself?
believe so. I think that's
Did
what's
that
happening.
happen?
No,
That's
it's
definitely
like-
what's happening.
As someone who shoots, I can relate.
Yeah.
it's happening.
He's
It's
like,
happening.
let me tell everybody out there exactly what it's like to be a premier shooter in the,
Cash you in the YMCA.
Look,
in,
there are
in the
some
no
thing-
wave in the no wave league.
There are some things that I can share, and I'd like to do that. Most of the time when you're shooting, it's like all of your body parts are just sort of kind of mildly at odds with each other. Like your arms and your knees, and you're kind of trying to bend your legs and your shoulders, and you're trying to like flip your wrist, whatever. But there are times when you're really hot, and the ball feels like it's airless. Like you're just, it has no weight. You're just kind of whoop, and it goes up, and they're going in.
How often? How many times per
every time,
year?
baby. It's a mama
I
mentality.
mean, it happened to me yesterday.
That's what we were getting to.
But I'm serious though,
Did you
because
point to your wrist?
no, I'm serious. When you are perfectly warmed up and like you are feeling it, you are a different shooter than you
But
are normally.
This is not part of the
But it
conversation
is.
at all.
It is. What I'm saying is, when you those numbers that stat guys put up and said, well, Dame Lillard actually has shot, 39% from that distance. It's like, but that's different. That's also like Dame Lillard coming up feeling like he's completely in the zone. He's not taking that shot if he feels janky.
See,
He's
we-
taking those shots when he's like heat checking, when
Well, I
he's
mean,
wide open. That's not the shot he took. Is my point.
thing that
Oh, that's
that
exactly
sort of
the
gets
shot he
lost in this conversation is the move that he pulled out of his ass to fucking tie that game, where he split 3 defenders in the air and came up a reverse twisting on the other side of the ring.
You're losing the thread here, Jordan.
Yeah, let's talk about that shot, though.
No, well, I just said the thing that people haven't been talking about, and now you're trying to stop me from fucking talking about it.
Yeah, we're on message.
Okay, so he had this amazing layup to tie a game that they were, by all intents and purposes, meant to lose. They get a stop at the other end. He's feeling good from that crazy layup as well. I think that is added fuel to his fire.
But what I'm saying is, when we looked at that small selection and people said it's a good shot, he's made 39% from 30 feet and above. I'm like, that's different though, because he's taking those shots when he's like feeling it. That's not his real 3-point shooting percentage, which is 36%. So just rock with me for a second here. Mm-hmm. He's a 36% shooter, including open shots. This is covered. If you consider within 4 feet guarded, maybe not smothered, but he was guarded. It was from 37 feet, not 30. The difference between 30 and 37 feet is the same as being between a free throw and an NBA 3. Completely different shots. Also, there was a shot clock. There was roughly, we know when he had to take that shot, and there was a step back. So for all the people who said statistically this was a good shot, what percentage of the time does Dame Lillard actually make a 37-foot step back 3 with a defender in his face? Because he doesn't ever take that shot. I mean, if it was a good shot, he would take it more. He doesn't.
That's the
he
lawyer
took
thing.
a bunch this series.
No, but-
The first shot.
Okay,
No one.
Of
no.
the first shot of this series was from 35 feet. That one where he got a stop on Westbrook and he was clapping his hands for the ball. He launched from there and made that as well.
So-
it may
Not a-
not have been a step back, but
So we
this
counted all of
dude
them.
shoots those shots in practice. If
But
you're-
we counted all those, and it's less than 20. Why wasn't it 40? Like, this is just lawyer stuff at this point, being like, okay, you've proven your point, but your point is invalidated because if it was a good shot, he would have taken double, triple, quadruple.
Well, it's like evolution of the game and expectations and what your abilities are, he might take 40. Like, why didn't Steph Curry come into the league taking 400 3-pointers a year?
I guess what I'm saying is if he is a 36% shooter overall, why is he not taking more of these much more difficult
I believe
shots?
that he probably will. And I believe other players probably will as well.
And what if the percentages go down on him? Is it still like,
that's
are we
what I'm
coming for
saying.
receipts?
I'm saying
Probably, yeah.
What's the percentage, in your opinion, of the time? Like, what does he shoot? Okay, 100 shots, that same one. How many of those does he make, in your opinion? Considering he's a 36% shooter, including wide open shots from the line, 22 feet.
Yeah.
From 15 feet further, a step back with a defender on him. He takes 100. How many does he make?
12.
I
Right?
agree. I agree 100%.
Yes, I agree too. And just lawyer stuff like
But
people.
he didn't need to make 12. He needed to make 1.
No, the real answer. The real
this
answer is
why I
100%.
went like-
That's the
yes,
real answer.
yes.
But I agree with you. It's like 12. It's like 10 to 15% range.
And lawyer stuff like people are gonna come at us for like, it's a good shot in the beginning of a game because you create space and whatever. Defenders have to respond to that, and then you create a foot on that man-to-man defense, and it creates different looks for your teammates. Understood. But that was a last shot of a game, so it's different in that point. I don't. I think we're talking about like what we've been talking about the last few cookies. It's just like, is a good shot good because it goes in? Like, if that shot doesn't go in,
We laugh at it.
it'd be like, why'd you do that, man?
We would have straight up scorned it. And that's what made it such an incredible
shot. And then the announcers would be like, well, he actually hits those. So, like, we understand why he took it, but
But lol.
yeah, that's not the shot to take at that point.
My only gripe was that we all agreed that this was a phenomenal, bonkers shot, and that's what made it so special. And then there was somebody, well, actually, it's not that hard. I'm like, yes, it is. A 37-foot step back with a game on line is hard as shit, and that's why we have never seen it before.
People are acting as if game is automatic because in a 1 out of 1 vacuum, he's 100%. Right? And, like, memory messes with us that way because Steph Curry plays the night after, claimingly the only other player who could do this in the league, loses a tight game versus the beast, Montrezl Harrell, the most ethical player on the court at any point.
Incredibly moral.
So moral, ethical. But he takes a couple of those shots and then like hits one and they lose.
Well,
why is he taking more?
I was going to say, in rich playoff tradition, we can now look forward to him getting shut down by the Spurs and going like 1 of 12 from 3 and following the lineage of Drew Holiday and John Wall, who have also, quote, owned the playoffs for the first round in 2 seasons in a row.
The last thing I want to say about this, you're talking about how the percentages go down because of distance. I don't think that matters. You're a better 3-point shooter than you are from mid-range, according to you, and I've seen you play. So why is it not potentially possible for Damian Lillard to be better from 7 feet behind the 3-point line than at the 3-point line?
Because he isn't.
Because no one on earth is.
Well, because they haven't really explored those possibilities yet.
Okay, I like that idea.
Sure. Yeah. Let's try this again.
It's the
I'm
Nick
looking forward to it.
It's Nick Van Exel shooting free throws from like 3 feet back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a young player being like, Donovan Mitchell, it hasn't been good yet. It's like, but wait, he will be. I'm like, okay, let's see it. Like,
I mean, but no one would have thought this about Steph Curry or James Harden 2 years ago because, and it's the same as with chase down blocks or ridiculous alley-oop dunks. People didn't try them until somebody else succeeded at doing it once. And then everyone's like, oh shit, I can just keep running harder and block that off the backboard, and that's going to be part of my repertoire.
but the
It's going to
argument,
take alien intelligence to
Because people
create.
used to like try and block those, like get back in front of their man and block it like that. Once LeBron sort of pioneered this chase down dunk thing, now everybody can do it because they have the athletic skill set to do it. So I think shooters are going to be dragging the defenses out more.
I mean, it's been happening for years.
Yeah,
but
then I don't understand the argument that it's impossible and that it couldn't happen, that he might be better from out there than closer.
because he isn't. Like,
But even though he isn't, but it doesn't, you're saying it's not possible.
no, I'm not. I never said that. But it's like the conceit was, it's only 2 players can do it, him and Curry. And like, that doesn't sound like a trend. That sounds like an anomaly. But we know it's a trend because we see Klay Thompson doing it. We see Drew Holiday kind of pulling up from there. It's a smart play within a strategy of a game. In that situation where he took the shot, probably not the best shot. I mean, like the Paul George thing that we ignore is right before he says that, he's like, yo, he was hitting everything. Respect to that guy. That was a beast of a performance.
I also think if you're looking at it from Paul George's perspective, and you said, in that situation, what's the best shot for the defense? You'd say, how about a step back three from 37
They
feet?
want them, yeah.
It's like
That's what they
literally the
want.
best shot he could take because driving to the basket, maybe he gets bumped, draws a foul, one shot, foul shot, game over. He gets into a mid-range,
High
makes a two
percentage.
shot, a higher percentage shot, game over.
Potentially higher percentage.
But
Currently.
shooting a three from deep off of his back foot, we'll take it.
Yeah.
And Lillard knocked it down.
It's a question of like what kind of vacuum are we talking about? Like what sample size are we talking about? And I want to talk about Westbrook at this point because like everyone's congratulating Dame for taking this good/bad shot, and everyone's getting on Westbrook for having poor shot selection and maybe the decline of his game because his shot selection was so bad in this game that it led to that Lillard possession.
And it also comes down to what none of us really believe a shot is good if it goes in, but that's still the starting point for everything.
Yes. And like we celebrated Westbrook 2 years ago when we gave him the MVP. Like not we cookies, but
Thank you for clarifying that.
No.
Wanna be-
None of us did.
No, it was actually Jordan. Jordan was the
Jordan
one
was the stand, and we had to be like, no, Jordan, this is not the hill to die on.
And he went ahead and he did it. He gave the MVP to Westbrook, and we couldn't stop him.
So I just pulled some stats. It's like in his MVP year, he shot in regular season 425. This year, everyone says the decline happened. His game is his shot selection is hurting his game. He shot better, 428. 3-point percentage kind of went down, but in the playoffs, his 3-point percentage went up, and he took less of them. So, like, he's been the same exact guy that we've been celebrating and we gave the MVP to, and we've been through all the machinations of, like, regret and how we realize the error of that MVP. But still, we cannot celebrate Lillard in this, like, 100% way without looking at his opponent and how he made the error there as well.
Well, the biggest part of the Westbrook saga that's too boring for people to talk about, but is huge, is that he went from a guy who shot 85% from the foul line to one who shot 65 this year. That's the reason his efficiency like fell off of the fucking map.
Right.
He just suddenly forgot how to shoot foul shots. And we can talk about his athleticism and all these issues, but he was a guy who thrived by getting to the line. And in that year when he won MVP, he went 10 times a game.
But let's stick.
And he made nearly 90% of them.
I mean, we know the failures of Westbrook in statistically and in his long it's the farce view. But within this comparison to Lillard and what we're talking about Lillard, it seems a bit unfair, and that's why immediately when Lillard hit that shot, my first reaction was like amazing, and then it was like, oh, don't come after Westbrook, because the reaction is going to be like, Westbrook's over, his shot selection screwed them, Lillard's the new king, like, why aren't we talking more about this guy? And I'm like, we can't do this to Westbrook, because I've always thought Lillard was better than Westbrook. But Westbrook's shot selection, when it goes in, we always celebrate.
Agreed. And Westbrook, we talked about this last week. He was actually taking better shots this playoff series than he had been.
He's
for
been a
most
smarter
of the,
player.
Most of the whole season. He just wasn't making them. He was shooting several games in. I didn't check after to what the final tallies were, but he hadn't made a shot over 10 feet. And he was like 1 of 10 from 3 and was literally 0 for whatever he took from mid-range. So he was 1 for X amount. And yeah, when you take a guy who is responsible for generating a lot of offense and make them suck, you see what happens to a team like OKC. You see what happens to a team like Utah. And the same situation with Donovan Mitchell. Like, he was a dude who was responsible for generating a lot of offense for a team that makes its bones defensively. And when he sucks, that team can't score.
And and the reason why this Lillard shot is so interesting because it keys into almost all the basketball biases. And like Westbrook's sloppy layup attempt that led to that possession was a bad shot. Like, he had other players on the court. He just kind of went Kobe and was like, this is my game to win or lose. Sort of exactly what Dame Lillard did. But we just remember the last thing. So it's just like, whatever, recency bias. We just remember if a band ends with their best song and be like, that's a great show. If they start with it, it's a bad show.
Between Donovan Mitchell, Tatum, a few other guys, the Kobe Mamba mentality is really taking a beating. Him as this coach who teaches you how to win and works on your game in the summer is now looking like a curse. Everyone just ends up being inefficient mid-range maestros.
There was a real comedic opportunity. I think it was Mitchell had gone cold, as he does a lot because he's not a good shooter, and they were just like, well, we talked to him last night, and he's been taking advice from Kobe Bryant, and Kobe Bryant's like, shoot or shoot, and you just shoot through it. And I agree with shoot or shoot, but Mitchell might not be a shooter. Like, and John Starks infamously missed all those shots against the Rockets.
So
You
Mitchell,
keep on shooting.
Look, I think shooters should shoot because the game is cyclical.
Right.
But to your point, Mitchell's not a great shooter.
No.
He's an okay shooter.
Ingles should shoot.
But Mitchell went out and shot like 4 of 22 in the last game.
Like, we wait for him to shoot out of his slumps way too much.
I'm just worried that he might be a regular season player. When the defenses step up in the postseason, he's just unable to perform. Maybe a choker.
You guys can shit on the Mamba mentality all you want, but in 2017, he did challenge Giannis Antetokounmpo to become the MVP of the league, and guess what? He will be another year.
Well, that's
some other time he will be.
that's a testament to Giannis for overcoming such strife.
To be honest, that's
To be
worthy
To be honest, yeah.
of being MVP.
Yeah,
to overcome not only the challenges of being a one-man army and the rigors of the NBA and all these other incredible players, but to overcome the Kobe curse, the Mamba's bite.
Brandon Ingram couldn't do it. Jason Tatum couldn't do it.
Isaiah
Giannis,
Thomas certainly couldn't do it. But there were older people. DeMar DeRozan. Look what he got for his fucking... He got cursed out all the way back to...
when that venom seeps into the bloodstream, it's tough.
Wait, what do you guys think happens during a Kobe mentorship hour? Is it just like, if you're the king, you got to take the crown, baby?
I bet... I don't know. I bet there's a lot of scolding. Be you can keep chewing that gum if you really want to, or you could take it out and fucking listen to me.
Right.
Like
Headmaster
weird,
stuff.
weird. Do
Do you want to win? Yes. Do you want to win? Yes. Do you have the will to win? Yes. Yeah. Do you have the will to win? The Mamba mentality? Yes. So I think it's just all call and response.
He's definitely the uncle who, after your dad died, is like there to really, really show you how life is. Now that you've lost the main man in your life, he's gonna step in and show you what the fuck is up.
Now that
you're a soft ass dad, that's why I died.
Now that your
Your dad is dead because he's soft. Do you want to
gonna have
die like your dad? You want to be a dead dad too?
It's time for you to be a man. You're coming with me to the whorehouse.
Exactly.
But my
And
dad,
work on
no. Your dad's dead. You're going to the whorehouse.
Yeah. Drink this beer and show me your footwork.
Smoke this entire pack of cigarettes in front of me right now. Like the Mamba would.
MJ smokes cigars. I'm only asking you to smoke a cigarette.
All right, mid-range with a Winston. Go.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine what he's telling these young players except being like, you got to understand you're the man and there's no one else on the court.
You know what shooters do? I know, shoot. Shoot. They shoot.
Have you guys seen his show on ESPN Plus?
Yes.
He's smart. Like, I don't want to take that from him. Like, he talks about the game to a degree where it's like, oh, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's lived this his whole life. But then it gets to the point where it gets kind of Magic Johnson-ish, where you're just like, oh, this is funny.
You know what? I think...
Is that a Lakers trait, though?
Not with Pau Gasol, the second greatest Laker of all time after Shaquille O'Neal.
No, Kobe was a great Robin. Let's give him credit for what
you
he
need
was.
a supporting cast, and Kobe's right there for you.
Kobe's there to be that guy.
I got your back, pal.
Don't want to be standing too hard for Kobe, but can we refer to him as Oscar winner Kobe Bryant from now on, please? Especially if you're going to relegate him to supporting roles.
OWK. Yeah.
So you're saying he's a supporting actor?
Yes.
Okay, fair. But I guess with Kobe and all these guys, when you hear them talk about the game, it's a treat. And that happened a few weeks ago with Durant. And we've all kind of viewed Durant as this guy who's salty and just bitches about social media and et cetera. And there was a clip of him that was much shared where he broke down the way that the Clippers were defending him. And everyone was stunned, and you liked him. You're like, oh, he really went through the nuts and bolts. Oh, they're top locking me here. When I get around him, he's small, I can shoot over him, but that's not a great percentage. That's a 40% shot. But every time I try to drive, people are swinging at me, and he's up in my body, and I'm not getting these calls. But he really broke down what it was like on the floor and the way that a good basketball sees the court. LeBron's always been able to do that, and there was a time where the press would sort of relish asking LeBron about moments in the game, so he could say, well, I saw Draymond coming out of the corner of my eye, and then JR was over there like drinking someone's Henny in the crowd, and then I decided that,
Not anymore.
I know, R.I.P. But all these guys can do that, I think.
Yeah, and there's a football coach that made the Super Bowl that's famous for having a photographic memory, and we've seen that with a lot of players like LeBron. It's like, oh, we played the tape, he got everything right, and I'm like, well, don't we enjoy players who can kind of like pull back a little bit and be like, oh yeah, you guys know what happened. Like, I really enjoyed Richard Jefferson's take on Kyrie Irving's shot in the finals, being like, I've been in finals before. I was so scared. And I'm like, ooh, that's like kind of a self-awareness and intelligence that is interesting. And it was lauded, but yeah, you're right. I'm not that impressed for someone recalling something that happened.
But it's more that I like hearing it. I'm not saying I'm unimpressed. I'm saying it kind of goes back to our discussion last week about Westbrook saying next question or regurgitating a cliche that we've heard a million times. It's refreshing to hear them actually talk about the game like professionals and adults and to break down what we find interesting, what they see out there, versus just saying, they're playing tough D, I got to get better shots, get my teammates involved. When he actually says, no, this is like actually what they're doing and their strategy, and here's how it's affecting me. And that's cool. And when I've interviewed players in the past, I always love when, like, for example, Kemba Walker told me how he got better at navigating pick and rolls. And he was specific. He's like, the coaches worked on me, so when I come off the screen, I slow down so that I can go at the same tempo as the roll man, and I'm getting better at making this pass and reads to hit the guys for threes.
Yeah.
And that's really cool for, like, a basketball dork such as ourselves.
I think being able to describe in general layman's terms to somebody who will never be able to accomplish what you're doing or how you're seeing it, and like peeling away the onion skin a little bit, is amazing. Like the Kobe film, Kobe Doing Work, that Spike Lee made of him against those 2 games against the Spurs. So good. And it's basically Kobe being like, hey, I've escaped from a prison 8 times. Do you want to know how to escape from prison? Like, this is how you do it. Or this is how, like, this is the mindset. This is the skill set. This is everything you need to escape from prison, even if you're never going to go to prison or actually be able to escape from it. And I think that's what's really cool. He's telling you how to kill somebody.
But I also...
And get away with it.
Or how to, feed a body to a crocodile, for example.
Yes.
Like someone who is mob affiliated.
And I don't think we see it, we don't see it that much because, like, these are not magicians, but I think that's the same psychology. Like, no one wants to tell you secrets. It'd be like, if someone tells you too much, the fear is, it's like, oh, they're going to guard me better now? Like, I don't want to tell them what I'm thinking. Like, if I, like, cheat to this spot, like, I don't want to let you know. I want you to figure it out.
In that Kobe film, the Spike Lee one, the most interesting part of that film that I remember was, he's like, doesn't matter if I'm saying all this shit. Everybody knows what play we're drawing up. Everybody knows it's just execution. Like, there's no secret. Like, if I'm standing here and they're standing there, they know essentially what we're trying to do, especially off inbounds.
But that's the genius of Kobe, because I think players like him...
It's the what of Kobe? Say that again.
Absolute genius of Kobe in the way he can read the moment.
Sounds like there's an asterisk attached to that.
I mean, he misses the shot right after he reads the moment, but like usually misses the shot.
Shoots 25% on those.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what's coming, especially me. A 75% chance at a loss.
Dude, his career from 3 was like 29%. He's not a shooter. But anyway.
Shooters shoot, Quo.
He did a lot. But what was I saying? Oh, yeah, it's like to read that in the moment is amazing because we saw last possession with Donovan Mitchell where he had an open look. And I believe it was Rivers and Capella that muffed that coverage, that switch. And sure, everyone knows Mitchell is trying to manufacture that game-winning shot, but they mess up the moment because I think Capella read it wrong. Like, in that moment, that's like a skill to recognize what to do, to improvise, to take what your coach said to do and alter it based off of what you see in a second. And Kobe had that, and Capella didn't. So even though we know Mitchell was going for it, it still was a blown coverage.
So Kobe's Mamba challenge to Capella was like, stop muffing coverage.
He got an open shot. It was crazy. Rivers was
Think like a Merkin.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Rivers was yelling at him as the shot was in the air. It was wild. Rivers was like, you were supposed to get it. And then when it bricked off the rim.
That's what I do when you mess up a segue.
All the time.
I'm looking at Jordan with a LeBron looking at, like a J.R. Smith. Like, come on, what's he doing?
Should we preview some series coming up?
If there's anyone interested in the Sixers Raptors who's still with us at an hour and 20 in,
Oh, man.
Is it really?
sure is, Jordan.
All right.
But we had a little rain delay, but now we're really grooving.
The rain really threw me
How are
off.
we going to squeeze Philly and Toronto into 10 minutes?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right.
So here we are, second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. You have Philly, who is the 3 seed, against Toronto, which is the 2 seed. And just to sort of give a light preamble here to this series is that Toronto is a lot better than Philly.
A lot.
They are the second best record. They have the second best record in the NBA. They were 2 games behind Milwaukee. Let it rain. Philly is a good team. They're a top 8 team, let's say. Toronto was the second best in the entire NBA. So though it's a 2 seed versus a 3 seed, they are not equivalent in terms of the quality that we've seen over the course of this season, including after the All-Star
Wait, I
break.
disagree. No, I mean, Philly's better than Toronto, I think. Their pyramid is kind of top-heavy, but the players on the top are better than what Toronto has on the court. And matchup-wise, and I know there's a lot of switching, a lot of zone, but, like, Simmons creates a big problem for Toronto. Kawhi's going to do his thing, but, like, we should not underestimate how good the Sixers are, even though, like, they've made mistakes in personnel, and they're a really entertaining team. And Toronto seems like these quiet assassins coming from the north, but, like, Philly's better, man.
Well, this is kind of what I'm sort of setting up here is the discussion of, can Philly beat a team that is on paper better than them by 7 more wins? Better offensive rating, better defensive rating, better net rating, better across the board. But to use a phrase that you like is that matchups make fights. Is that what you use? Styles make fights. So that's kind of what I'm saying here is how do the Sixers beat a team that is on paper better than them?
I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But I think, like I said, like Simmons, I think has to thrive in transition. I think he's going to give Lowry a lot of problems just with his size. You don't play McConnell at all in this series. I think Embiid, as a defensive rim protector, is going to give a lot of problems to Kawhi. And I know I'm just isolating these matchups, and these are very bright teams, and I love what they're doing up in there in Toronto. And Siakam can play anywhere on the floor, like 1 through 5. Like, he's a big problem in this series. The Philly just has too much talent. I think I may overrate Jimmy Butler a bit, but I just see him as a real issue on the court for every opposing team, not only defensively, but the way he's starting to create looks for his teammates.
They've used him now as the sort of the de facto point guard in the half-court offense. And Simmons will shift to like the dunker spot. You've got Embiid will sort of play on kind of a wide swath, but Butler's the primary ball handler in the half court. I guess to answer the question that I presented is like, how does Philly beat a team that is on paper better? You've got a couple of variations. Do the weaknesses that Philly has shown over the course of the season, not having guards, being vulnerable to teams with guards, is that a big deal against Toronto? And I don't know that it is, because Lowry's good, but I think Simmons can do a fine job. If you're going with a weird, like, big dude on a little guy matchup, I'm okay with that.
No kink shaming.
Also, though you can isolate Redick if you want and try to get him on the guy that you want to attack, him on Danny Green, not terrifying. Danny Green's a spot-up shooter, he's a smart cutter, he's a very good player, but that's not terrifying. It's granted, you can isolate him and run picks to put him on someone that, like Kawhi, and you have to counter that. But just naturally on Danny Green, not a scary matchup in the way that him on Marcus Smart or on Kyrie or on any of the Nets guards was.
And how do you see the Gasol presence versus the Sixers?
Embiid has not played well against him over the course of
Historically,
his career. He's shot something like 36%. He's averaging, I don't know, like 15 points or 14 points
They
per
got
36
Gasol
minutes.
for this series.
Yeah. And this is, I think that's going to be the big difference maker, is if Gasol can go single coverage on Embiid while he's on the floor and you don't have to double, therefore you're not pulling someone off of Simmons, Butler, or Tobias Harris, or even like Redick coming off the curl. If you can do that, you're in good shape. I think if you have to double Embiid with Gasol on the floor, you're staring at a really, really hard 6-game loss.
I agree. The Marc Gasol was absolutely brought in for two purposes. One, his defense on Embiid, and two, the fact that unlike Jonas Valanciunas, whatever.
Jonas, Volucinus. I don't know. Fuck.
Anyway, that big dude who's on Memphis now couldn't shoot threes, and Gasol can. So it's really important for for Toronto to be able to pull Embiid away from the paint. And they can do that with Ibaka, and they can do it with Gasol. And that was the other part. So the worst case scenario is Embiid struggles in the post against a team and then is dragged out of the paint. So Toronto is setting up a situation in which they're trying to devalue the things that Embiid does best. And it comes down to, can Embiid thrive offensively regardless? And can he have a defensive impact even with guys who are there solely to drag him out of the lane?
I think the difference will be transition. I think whichever team executes in transition more often is going to swing the series. And I think Simmons and Butler are the superior transitional players, because it might be like an ugly 90s-ish looking game, especially with the isolation that these players, like Kawhi Leonard likes to hold the ball a little bit. Same with Gasol, Embiid, Tobias Harris. Butler. Yeah, they like to hold the ball, so we might be looking at a real 90s-esque series, but it's going to be great. And I don't like predictions, but also to that coin, I don't care if I'm wrong. That's what I mean. And, like, I like the Sixers, man.
And one thing that is worth taking into account that's kind of stung the Raptors in the past is that, not to say it's applicable to this current group because they're different players, but they've been a deep team, and that advantage has been mitigated by shorter rotations in the playoffs. And Philly benefits from that because their bench sucks. So when they stop playing TJ McConnell any minutes at all, and Embiid is playing 38, and Simmons is playing 40, and Butler's playing 40, and Tobias Harris is playing 40, there's just less minutes going to shitty players. And that's obviously a bump for Philly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really help Toronto, who has some guys who can contribute, who just won't have an edge in talent over the guys that they'd be going against.
Yeah, like Van Vliet. Is OG coming back this series? Is he ready?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I mean, Toronto has built a deep team, and I'm really excited to see this because this matchup was definitely on the table. And no king shaming to Lord Brand, but he didn't prioritize depth at all. And you hear he did. And I think it's going to be really fun to... The tension is... Every time Embiid falls, I kind of like hold my breath a little bit. The whole success and entertainment value of the Sixers in this playoff scenario resides in health.
Well, one issue for Philly is that how much time can you reconcile giving players who are situationally unplayable? Because Toronto doesn't have any of those dudes. Boban, in certain situations, is fully unplayable. Marc Gasol, Ibaka, all their wings, all those guys you can put in at any time. It's not a big deal. You don't have to actually micromanage minutes. Sixers do. Boban can't play with Ben Simmons. They fucking suck.
The numbers are terrible.
Ben Simmons shoots 42% with Boban on the floor in the playoffs and for the last season. They cannot ever.
Which is horrible for Simmons.
Can't. Yeah. When he's off, he shoots like 55%.
His true shooting percentage is good.
They can't play. He doesn't get to the foul line. They cannot be on the floor at the same time. Boban can't guard stretch fives. How do you put him on against Marc Gasol? Marc Gasol stands at the top of the key. Then what's Boban going to do? He can't do anything. So Boban, unplayable. TJ McConnell, unplayable. Redick, in circumstances when he's forced to guard people who are attacking him off the dribble, kind of unplayable, but they don't have options. So that, to me, is the problem that Philly faces because of the lack of depth. There are guys you just can't put on the court without really damaging your chances for winning a game.
The acquisition of and usage of Boban is like been really curious to me because it's like in a simple like grade school kind of playground mentality. If someone tries to trade you something, the first thing you ask yourself is like, why are you giving this up? Like, why are you coming to me with this offer? Like, is there something wrong with it? Why don't you want to keep it? And when the Clippers traded Boban to the Sixers, I was like, that's fun. He's a good locker room guy.
He's
like,
fun. He's fun.
They're going to play him big minutes? And I'm like, yo, Elton Brand, like playground, like why are they just giving up on this guy?
Why are you giving me your Game Boy? Look, it still works. It's
Yeah,
fine. And then you get it
exactly.
home and you realize that game is stuck in there and you can never play another game. You're like, motherfucker,
Oh, Frogger.
got me.
But I was thinking about exactly this point when I was looking at their salaries, and I was like, wait a minute. Everyone would have known that Boban and Simmons can't play together because he never works well with big men who can't catch lobs or shoot from the perimeter. We've seen him play with Amir Johnson. It's a non-starter. You can't play them together. Why would you trade Mike Muscala, who actually had good numbers with Simmons together because he can shoot, for Boban? It's it's dumb.
Isn't the obvious answer Tobias Harris? Like, you want him to re-sign, you want him to have a nice time, and you want him to be integrated with his best bro in a new city, somebody who's known as a fun glue guy who might help Tobias and him integrate into this team in the middle of a season, and potentially they have such a nice time together that Tobias re-signs and it keeps him there.
Vibe-wise, 100%. When he came over, I thought, it was like, oh, yeah, they'll post videos. This will be great. They'll eat cheesesteaks together, 100%. But now we know why they wouldn't give the Sixers Beverly. Because, like, Beverly's super good. And
They were just like, no. I was like, how do you not get Beverly? Because the Clippers were like, no, you can't have Beverly.
Yeah, it's like, oh, can you trade me your Game Boy that works? Like,
No, but I've got this other one.
What about you give us Beverly and we don't give you Shamit? That would have been nice as well.
I mean, I'm not that upset with the Shamit thing, respect to Waluigi, who's been really good, but, like, you got to give something to get something. And, you know, there's a lot of hot takes out there being like, oh, you know, I'd rather have Shamit than Tobias. I'm like, he fits better, but no, Tobias is a really awesome
And you know
player.
what? If
Shamit's not giving you 29 points in a playoff game.
But also, Mike
Tobias is
Scott's
good.
Mike Scott's given them pretty good minutes, so you got to include him as part of that
Is he
deal as
okay?
well.
What's the update on him?
Dunzo.
No, I heard it was they removed him precautionarily.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the latest.
His
I think
heel,
I
right?
think he's okay.
I hope so. He's huge as
No,
a
they
release
really,
valve.
They really need him. He can shoot, and if you're going to go small and put Simmons at the 5, you kind of need Mike Scott at the 4 to give you another stretch big. But that's what I was looking at. I was like, Mike Muscala, not a good player, but he works with Simmons. So now the fact that you have Embiid handcuffed to Simmons, that limits your options. You can't really go small. Anyway, no shaming.
No
but-
shame.
I was thinking about this with Mike Scott the other day. These fucking headbands, dude. I don't think they're long for this world. I think someone's going to complain about them, like the tails getting too long and like getting in someone's face when they're posting
been
up.
chatter of that.
And it's just like, it's so silly. Is this going to be one of those strange seasons where you, like, in 10 years you look back and everyone playing in the playoffs is wearing these crazy, like, Pirates of the Caribbean headbands, and it happened for 1 or 2 seasons only? I'm going to be really thrilled. Like when everybody wore long socks.
Please, NBA gods, don't do that before they lower them 4 inches over their eyes and cut eyes holes out of them. Please, can we just see that? Like Isaiah Thomas.
Full Ninja Turtle?
Yeah. I just want to see it. Is there a rule against it? Ugh.
I think there's a rule against it.
But you can put on mask.
No,
I
yeah,
know,
but then
I know.
that has to be clear. Ooh, what if you had like an opaque, like fishnet headband?
Sweet.
Yeah,
Well, the question here is the NBA monetizing them? Because
they are
that's
now.
Right.
You can buy them with logos and stuff.
Yes, it took them a while, but I noticed Mike Scott had the NBA logo one, and they were hastily preparing them for the playoffs. And I believe now you can buy them on
I
NBA.com.
was going to say, if they're selling them, the NBA will be fine with them, and then people will just think they're played out, and they'll stop wearing them or something.
I mean, they're already kind of played out, right?
No, I like them still. Maybe after this season.
Wait, has any white player worn one?
Oh, come on, that could never happen, right? Maybe Porzingis if he gets his cornrows back.
Has Keith Van Horn wear one? He's the only white player I can think of.
I'm saying I don't think one white dude has.
Come on, Reddick. Show some team spirit.
Yeah, Redick should do it.
It should be Reddick.
Kelly Olynyk would probably be
yeah.
because he already wears a headband, he has long hair, and he has an excuse.
He might wear it. I could
That would
see
look
someone
great.
with long hair who's kind of tying their hair up would be the obvious option.
Yeah, because Reddick has that kind of buzz cut that he doesn't want to cover up.
Steven Adams would have been awesome with it. Really get that Pirates of the Caribbean look down.
Who else would be good with that?
Luka Doncic looks good everything he does. The extra 15
He might wear it.
pounds.
He might wear it.
Talking about Muscala, the last move. Come on, transition.
That's good. That's good. I'm not
Talking
even
about
giving,
the Moose.
I'm not even giving Jordan a look.
Talking about the Moose, the last move that Magic Johnson made as a GM of the storied franchise of the Lakers. So Magic quit. We all know the story, right? He quits, and he's just like, yesterday he tweets out, like, the truth should be told. I think I have it. Like, on Twitter.
Is quitting a strong enough word for what he did? Like, he didn't quit. Like, he fucking bailed. Like, what else is what's even worse than bailing?
Yeah, it wasn't a resignation.
Surrendered. Like, yeah.
So yes,
He put up the yellow and
Did he defect?
purple flag.
Yeah,
So-
it was some traitorous shit.
so yesterday he tweets,
His betrayal.
Betrayal. Yeah.
the truth will always come to light. And everyone's like, what are you
Wait,
talking?
Porzingis did this and then got like a sexual assault thing.
So we were
That's always a bad omen when you say the truth will come to light.
so
Does he have the unredacted Mueller report?
So he tweets that, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, what's he gonna say?" Immediately afterwards, he goes, "I'll be tuned in at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to watch the 2019 NFL Draft," which was hilarious, right? Like, there's this story that Bill Simmons told on the radio, which they used to broadcast together on ESPN. Did I tell this already? And Magic's phone goes out of commission, and he's like, "Yo, I need you to tweet from your account from me about tonight." And he's like, okay, what do you need? Does Magic Johnson, like, you have a take? And he just goes, I want to say good luck to Dwight Howard. And he's like, oh. So that's the kind of vibe we're dealing with. But actually it comes out later in the day that he resigned because he was accidentally, quote unquote, allegedly, BCC'd on emails going back and forth between Jeannie Buss and Pelinka trashing him.
Oh.
So they were criticizing him, and all these emails were going around, and they allegedly forgot that he was on this
I
chain.
love how incompetent everyone is in this situation.
Or competent. Did they do that on purpose?
No.
Was it a Hamlet moment where Pelinka's like, this is my team now? Did he Mamba mentality the whole thing?
What did they say about him? Has that come out yet?
We don't know yet. It was a quick article, but apparently he found out, and I would have quit too. I mean, I would have quit anyway if I was him because his life seems pretty sweet. But I wonder what they said because Pelinka is the GM and Magic was the acting president. If they won, if they won, kind of like Dame Lillard wise, would they just be like, genius? Because they let him make all these moves.
They're like, Magic really screwed the pooch on his AD sitch. Lol, sure did.
So it apparently was Pelinka, right? It said the important thing in all this, there was no indication that Jeannie was backing up Rob in terms of either going to Magic or letting him know that this was happening. So maybe Pelinka was the backstabber here, apparently. Maybe it was
Brutus.
not. It may not have been Jeannie.
And so, but Jeannie,
E2 Pelinka?
but his sister Jeannie wasn't writing for him hard enough, so he. Oh, and maybe that's why he didn't tell anyone because he didn't want them to be sharing it on the email
Truth will
change.
come out, and it came out. Did he leak that information? Probably.
So the truth did come out. But now that he's back on Twitter, he's blessing us with incredible content. And it was pretty amazing because he sort of cited how much he wanted to get back to being a fan of the game and a spokesman for the game and be able to speak unencumbered by the responsibilities and limitations of being a GM. So now he can say things like this.
We get the expertise, for example, quoting, "You have everything that you want in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Great coaching, great scorers, great offense, great defense, and star power. Thank you, Magic. Thank you for those nuggets."
That's the T.
What was his Dame Lillard take? Was it like, wow, truly Dame time tonight with like a mind blown emoji?
Come on, Quo. Give us more Magic T. Like what's Magic? What's the goss?
Well, it's nothing good.
No. This is great. I want more goss from Magic.
The Eastern Conference second round matchups, Raptors versus Sixers, Celtics versus Bucks, will be some of the best in history. You can't pick a favorite because the teams are so evenly matched.
That is spicy.
Ooh, those are hot takes, man.
It sounds like it was a tweet from NBA.com.
I can get back to my true labor of love, composing anonymous tweets from the league office, promoting playoff series.
That's not even tampering. He could have been doing this the whole time, right? It's like,
Excited for this game. That's a fine.
good luck to all the players and coaches out there tonight.
But his resignation now does make more sense in the context of the emails, because I thought it was totally reasonable. Like, go back and be Magic Johnson. But really, he was just hurt.
Dude, I don't blame him at all. That's hurtful stuff, man.
I wish I knew. It was like, Magic, dumbass old Magic. Muscala Magic, as I call him.
And is that why the press conference was so long? Because he was still trying to like process this betrayal in his mind.
Perhaps, man. We don't have a timeline yet.
No wonder he
Betrayed
cried.
by
No
an
wonder
agent, imagine.
No wonder he cried.
I mean, Pelinka was his dude, right? Like, Pelinka wasn't a front office guy. He was an agent. And Magic was like, oh, the league's changing. Like, I'm going to hire you. And, like, we got to evolve as a front office as well. Whoops.
See, now I feel bad about all those bad things I just called Magic about being like a traitor and a betrayer. It turns out he had every good reason to bounce in the manner that he did.
Stand-up guy, Magic Johnson.
Wouldn't it be great if he just got on a plane and left the country and didn't say anything?
Apparently, he did that during the season, and they couldn't find him.
Are you somewhere scouting? Yes. I am.
It's like, no, I'm on an island with no internet, so my heart can mend.
Who would deal with them at this point? Like, if the Lakers came at you, being like, "So is Frank Ntilikina available?"
You want to deal with the Lakers right now. The Lakers are dumb. The Lakers are on speed dial.
There's like Rambi involved, right?
I mean,
more than one Rambus.
Well, they're sending a contingency to Philly because they want to hire Monty Williams, who's had a tough couple of years. His wife passed away, and everyone says he's a really great guy. He was former coach of the Hornets, and now the Lakers are sending a convoy to, I guess, try to recruit him for the open coaching vacancy in Los Angeles. And it came out that they're bringing Kurt Rambis and his wife.
Sick.
I'm like, the Rambises got tickets to the game?
How'd they get tickets to the game?
I love it, though. Like, we have two Rambises.
Rambi.
Rambi 2.
How does
More Rambises.
Rambus 2 First Blood, though? That was always confusing to me.
Now, I got to say this. Quo might try to stop me. I'm going to be totally frank. When I see Kurt Rambis' wife, I'm going to check out that wagon.
Oh.
I know, Quo, I'm sorry. I'm just saying. Rambis has a reputation. I want to see if he was framed up.
Listen, you're not a GM who's trying to sign power forwards for your playoff run. You get your eyes on the stat sheet.
Also, there's not going to be any proof in the caboose. If it's like, if it's good, then you know that he has a type. If it's bad, now you know why he was looking elsewhere.
Oh, it's a zero-sum investigation.
Yes, that's the gift of the Rambi.
Oh.
Well, we crushed it. That was a perfect pod.
We did it. Only an hour and 45 minutes.
Whoever's with us still, thank you.
God, it's like, I gotta go watch the Avengers after this. That's like 3 hours. Really chewing out a chunk of my day.
And yet,
Endgame.
perfect.
Pretty perfect.
Cookies, end game.
Gift of the Rambi.
Perfect pod.
Perfect.